morning, everybody. Welcome to Bloom House. I get the first apology out of the way for that music. I'm Dalton Silvox. I used to be chair of Outdoor Recreation in Northern Ireland, but we've changed our name, so I'm now chair of Outscape. And the new name is to reflect the expanded scope of work that we're doing, our ambition, the vibrancy of that work, but based on the same vision and mission to enable all people, local communities and visitors, to maximise the multiple benefits of being active outdoors in nature. This is our first conference under that new name, and we'll be looking outwards at the landscape of outdoor recreation tourism. The focus today is on collectively lifting our game, nurturing, creating exceptional places and experiences, exploring not just how we can do it, but identifying the value and why we should need it, to lift the rich resources we've been gifted through geological and environmental diversity, centuries of culture and tradition, and as the basis of exceptional experiences. Sensitive and vulnerable habitats need protection and nurturing. Traditions and places need to keep their authenticity. I believe rewards only come with effort and emotional and physical involvement in the experience, curiosity, discovery, and immersion. Creating excellence requires commitment and investment, and the fine judgment to decide where and how to intervene. Today is about seeking to inspire outdoor activity tourism providers to aim for the exceptional, to empower and enable you to conceive, plan and deliver capital projects in the outdoors. Projects which are rooted in the local community and promoted with pride. Projects which are sustainable, regenerative, giving back more to the environment than they take. Projects that realise the potential of this special place, our stunning landscapes shaped by geography, environment and tradition. Our speakers today have been chosen for their experience, their expertise, their successes, and importantly, their willingness to share how they help create inspired excellence and articulate why that's important and the benefits they bring. They will show us benchmarks of quality of design, seamless visitor experiences and sustainability. But inspiring as all that will be, what we do here must be founded on the genius loci, the spirit of this place, not simply copied from elsewhere. And that's why we're here today, not gathered around our laptop screens or listening to recordings or reading the case studies, but gathered here in person to debate, to ask questions, to take part in panel discussions, and to bring our own experiences and expertise and knowledge. It's your intuition, intelligence and innovation that needs to come together. Increasingly, I believe, local and visitor alike, we seek authenticity, an experience founded on quality of the cultural, built and natural heritage we have, stories, traditions, centuries of interaction between people and their environment, not voyeurs, but active participants. So I look forward to everyone being an active participant in the conference today, and I'm particularly pleased that John McGillen, Chief Executive Officer of Tourism NI, is here with us today with a strong contingent from his team. And I invite John to start today off with his opening remarks and endorsement of the importance and value of what we're doing. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much, Dawson, and good morning to you all, ladies and gentlemen. As Dawson said, my name is John McGillen and I'm Chief Executive of Tourism Northern Ireland, and it's a great pleasure to be here this morning in this fabulous setting of Malone House to welcome you all to this year's Outscape conference. There's a lot of familiar faces in the room, lots of people who I've known over many years, so it's great to see the strength and support for the outdoor sector from such a wide range of organisations and businesses and agencies, as well as our own government departments. From our perspective, outdoor activity has become an increasingly important part of the tourism offer here in Northern Ireland. All the research that we do and visitor insights that we have consistently tell us that wellness, relaxation and soft adventure are the top motivators for people to travel. And those are the things that the outdoors offer in abundance. And we know from the research that Tourism Ireland does that the reasons for people to visit the island of Ireland are principally to come explore our landscape, explore our heritage and connect with our communities. And when they come here to Northern Ireland, there are two things that really happen, and this is borne out by the research we have. They fall in love with the people that are here. The warmth of the welcome really, really stands out, and they're blown away by the quality of the landscape. So we've got a couple of real strengths there that we have the opportunity to build on. The Tourism and it's our job to deliver and support people in the development of experience and promoting those experiences that are rooted in the authenticity of the place, as Dawson said, our environment, our heritage, and our people. So today's conference, which focuses on inspiring exceptional outdoor spaces, exploring the physical infrastructure within the great outdoors, is a really excellent theme, I think, for collective consideration. And just as outdoor tourism is a strategic priority for Tourism NI, and Maria McAllister, who's with us this morning, is going to tell you a little bit about that later. It's also a priority for many other government departments and their agencies, and they see this through their own strategic objectives. So it's a timely opportunity for us as a collective to consider what does world class look like, how do we develop inspiring, exceptional outdoor spaces with a distinctive message from Northern Ireland, and how do we ensure that we're doing that in a sustainable way and that we're having that regenerative impact that Dawson spoke about upon the landscape. So what we want to do today is to explore what world class really means and what is unique about Northern Ireland. Dawson mentioned distinctiveness and authenticity, and that's sort of language, I think, which is often used in tourism strategies across the globe and discussed in meeting rooms like this. But when you take a step outside into the great outdoors, you go along our coastline, up into our mountains, into the forests, spend time in the lakes or rivers, it really reminds us, what is truly distinctive about this place that we live in. And those are the things that we try to amplify and resonate with our brand, Northern Ireland Embrace the Giant Spirit. Those are the things that we're trying to connect with and the message that we're trying to get across to the consumer that we're trying to sell to. So to deliver a world-class experience in the outdoors, our visitors also need to experience a compelling mix of not just outstanding landscapes, but they also need to come in contact with a thriving culture and heritage scene, and basically benefit from the offer of a world-class food and drink offer that we have here in abundance. And all of those things need to be underpinned by exceptional customer service. That's what the consumer expects today when they come here. So we, as an organisation, we believe wholeheartedly that Northern Ireland has the natural assets, it's got a warm and welcoming community spirit, and it's got the skills to deliver a distinct outdoor tourism offer. And we're proud to promote the region that we come from and what it can offer. And we're really, I'd say, inspired by a lot of you people in the room, the experience providers and the experiences that you provide to visitors who come here day in, day out. However, I think in saying that, there's much more we need to do if Northern Ireland is to remain a competitive destination. We just have to look south of the border to see government investing heavily in its tourism infrastructure, its products and support services, and destination planning and visitor management practices. I have to say, I just really envious every time I meet with Fáilte Ireland. Paul Kelly reminds me this budget's just 10 times as much as mine. But we've got to live with that. But they've got an EU transition fund at the moment where £68 million is going to be spent in the Midlands in regenerative tourism infrastructure over the next 2 years, primarily on greenways and cycleways and blueways. And unfortunately for us, we don't have a dedicated capital funding stream at this point. But there are other sources that we can use to develop the infrastructure. Thanks to the Heritage Lottery Fund, the City and Growth Deals, Peace Plus programme, the Shared Island Fund, and as well as some of the departmental capital budgets. I think there is an opportunity for us to make most of those offers that are around. And to do that, I suppose we really do need to work in partnership, and we need to collaborate. So we want to work with all of you in the room here today to deliver on that shared ambition of creating exceptional outdoor spaces. And whilst the primary focus of what we do is about attracting visitors, we recognise that we only should be doing that if it's having a positive benefit on local communities and they're built in natural surroundings. If we're not having a positive benefit then there's no real point in bringing visitors here. So, that regenerative message sort of rings true to us and is, central to the core of what we do and what we will be doing going forward. And we're not an asset owner, so we don't own a lot of the properties in the landscape, but we do want to collaborate with government departments and their agencies who do, our local councils and custodians of the landscape, such as the National Trust, to assist on unlocking the potential of those exceptional natural resources that we're so lucky to have. So, we think there is a real opportunity here to develop an outdoor offering across Northern Ireland for the benefits of visitors and local communities alike. And our efforts in this area have really intensified over the last year or so. We've now developed an overarching visitor experience development plan, and there are 3 elements to that, 3 key pillars: culture, arts, heritage, food and drink, and for you guys probably the most important one, landscape and activity. And with the help of very extensive consultation with many of you in the room, we have also developed a very ambitious 5-year framework for outdoor tourism with the principles of sustainability and regeneration at its heart. And the framework, along with the new interdepartmental working group and the Outdoor Tourism Partnership task with overseeing that, its delivery is just the start. And I just want to say thank you for those of you who are participating in those groups for making their time available to do that. So collaboration is at the core of what we do. We're a small organisation with limited resources, so the only way we can deliver is working in partnership with all those around us. So we want to do that with all of the key stakeholders, we want to do that with all of our local councils, and we want to work together to develop inspiring, exceptional outdoor spaces. So I think there's an opportunity for us to use our networks and our influence to support and enhance the infrastructure around us, and helping to use our key assets, our landscape and our people, to deliver exceptional visitor experiences and deliver on sustainability and regeneration. And hopefully if we can do all of that, we will provide deeper and more meaningful experiences, provide balanced regional growth, and protect and nurture our heritage and culture and natural environment, as Dawson was speaking about earlier. So I'm looking forward to hearing what people have got to say here this morning. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave a lot earlier than anticipated. My original plan was to be here all day, and then I got a phone call from the private office last night saying that I had a meeting with the Minister at 11 o'clock. So I have my list of priorities, and I have to say, one of those is to make the case for a capital budget for the sort of activity that we're talking about here today, because the Minister, you might not be surprised given his political background, is very keen on expanding some of the brands in the Republic of Ireland across the border, the White Atlantic Way, the Ireland East East, and we do think that there's merit in that. However, calling something different isn't going to bring people here on its own. And part of the argument that I will want to make to the Minister and his colleagues and the Executive is we want to do this. Our product needs to match that of the product on the other side of the border, and to do that we need to invest in the product. So if you come into contact with any politicians over the next number of months, when they're fresh into the role, I do think it's critically important that we do make our argument and make our case for investment, because we will hear Paul Gibb make the case for schools, and he's got a very strong argument for that. We'll be hearing ministers arguing for more money into health. We will be hearing that demand for capital, and we're a small fish in a large pond with lots of big fish around us. And we need everyone sort of articulate the argument we want to put across, amplifying that so that message gets heard, and we hopefully can secure some of the money to do some of the things that you would really like us to do and help you to do over the course of the next number of years. So I apologise I've got to leave early. I hope it's for all the right reasons, but I do hope you have a very enjoyable, productive and hopefully inspiring day. So thank you very much, and I will hand over now to Graham. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, you're not getting green just yet. John, thanks for that. We're sorry you're not joining us today, but we absolutely wish you well. And with the look to not hanging out the begging bowl, but putting the rightful case for investment in the outdoors. And best of luck to you. And I know your rest of your team are here to represent tourism and I. Before handing over to Graham, who's our Master of Ceremonies and our tour guide for the day, I've been doing his housekeeping duties. Nobody wants to do them. I think Graham didn't want to be. Executive needs to do it, I'll be brief. There are no planned firearm drills, so if an arms go off, please follow the staff instructions. The main exit doors in this room are outside directly from the room out onto the terrace. Please ensure your phones are on silent. The sessions are all being recorded and the event photographed. If you're particularly shy of audio-visual recording, let that be known to some of the staff. We do our best to hide you from something like that. Can't imagine why anybody would not want to be seen to be here, but there we go. The running order will be on the screen and it's also on your lanyard, just to remind you about that. So please, when you're out to coffee breaks or lunch, please try and get back in as promptly as possible just to keep us all on time. And finally, I've been asked to employ you to join the discussion on social media. The buzzwords for today are hashtag exceptional outdoors and hashtag inspires. There you go. So I'm now going to leave you in capable, much more capable hands of Graham Little, TV presenter and journalist from Enniskillen, the background, well known for taking on some of the world's toughest sporting challenges, and so it'll be easy enough today to keep us all under control. Graham's going to manage the rest of the day, introducing the speakers and guiding the panel of resources.
It's an honour for me to be introduced and have a warm-up man who's actually stood on top of the world not so long ago. I always feel that the fact that Dawson has retained his interest in and his passion for our outdoor spaces here in Northern Ireland, despite the fact that he's literally surveyed the whole world from the top of Everest, says a lot about him, but also says a lot about here and what Northern Ireland has to offer. Thank you to John as well for being here. It's a shame we got to leave early, but we all understand the reasons why. Our local politicians are some crack. They leave us hanging here for 2.5 years without any representation. They come back in for 2 weeks and then they change everybody's plans at a whim. But we wish you all the best, John, of trying to secure funding for the sort of projects that you're talking about. It's vitally important to be here on the offering that we do have, and we really appreciate you championing that for us. Hopefully we get more of the great events that we've had here in the last few years as well. I look back very fondly on the MTV Music Awards, the Giro d'Italia, the Open Golf Championship, the Pleasure Boys Night at the Devonish. Heavily involved in all those jobs, so really thank you for your efforts.
I definitely wasn't the
Maybe not the Devonish, you weren't there. Last time I was with you all for this conference back here in 2023, you're obviously called Outdoor NI, as Dawson has alluded to, and you were posting updates from the conference then on the social media site that was called Twitter. Since then, of course, a megalomaniac billionaire has taken control and controversially changed the name, but that's enough about Caroline Ferris and Chris Scott. Not to mention Elon Musk and Twitter. The Outscape rebranding has been very successful, and it was just one part, however, of a very busy and eventful year for everyone associated with the outdoors in Northern Ireland. Not all of it positive, it must be said. We managed to break the largest lake in Britain and Ireland, which was hopefully the wake-up call that everyone needed about how vital it is that we not only look after our natural environment, but also really control how we interact with it and how we impact on it. And hopefully Lough Neagh can recover now that we're a bit more aware of the detrimental impact that we're having on it. I used to run with a group up there and go swimming in the lake after. If I'd swam there last summer, it would have come out looking like a Martian or some sort of extra from a St. Patrick's Day parade. It was just so sad to see it, and I think if we compare what's happened there at Lough Neagh to other freshwater places that are managed as attractions here in Northern Ireland, places like Let's Go Hydro, the Shared Discovery Village in Fermanagh, the Lake Water Park in Kilray, if we compare what's happening there to what happened in Lough Neagh last summer, we can better understand the importance of managing these places and the interactions correctly, and the power that they can have to attract visitors, put a destination on the map, and to enhance our connection to a place and to our own natural environment. And today we're focusing on what it takes to deliver and to manage exceptional outdoor places, hopefully inspiring and equipping you to play your part here in Northern Ireland, now and in the future. Our keynote speaker this morning is Catherine Flanagan. She is the CEO of the Irish branch of the Association of Visitor Experiences and Attractions. The AVEA represents over 120 attractions all over the island of Ireland. In addition to her work for them, Catherine sits on several tourism advisory groups and previously worked with the Irish Tourism Industry Confederation, as well as holding senior sales and marketing roles in the hotel sector. She's a bit of a SWAT as well. She has graduated from 3 different universities in Dublin, Trinity, UCD and TU Dublin. She also has a particular interest in creative and cultural entrepreneurship. The focus of her speech this morning will be on what exceptional looks like on the world stage, what works, and of course what doesn't. Please welcome Catherine.
Good morning, everybody. It's a long number of years since I've been called a SWAT. All those feelings are rushing back. In addition to the presentation I'm going to share with you today, I'm going to share my cough. Well, I hope I won't, but just excuse me if I do cough a little bit. Thank you very much, Graham, for the warm welcome. Let me just organise myself here and grab my water before I start. So as Graham said, I represent AVEA, which is the Association of Visitor Experiences and Attractions. And we have a huge variety of attractions amongst our membership, from the Guinness Storehouse to Fondant Lighthouse, and from Glenarm Castle to the Cliffs of Moher. And I'm here today to talk to you about excellence and how to make tourism experiences outstanding, memorable and exceptional. And I hope that the insights that I have gleaned from the visitor attraction sector are something that you can bring to the organisations that you run in the outdoor realm. In October of last year, AVEA had our annual conference in beautiful Ennistimon in County Clare, and the theme of the conference was world-class experience with local authenticity. Now, the Cliffs of Moher, very well known, obviously. It's been ranked as one of the top 10 natural wonders of the world that you should go and visit in your time. And it consistently achieves very high levels of visitor enjoyment, engagement and satisfaction and approval. It's the second biggest economic driver in County Clare after Shannon Airport, and it's the jewel in the tourism crown. It welcomes over 1 million visitors a year, and obviously it has a very important role in terms of engaging with local stakeholders, community, local authority and the wider tourism sector. And the Cliffs strategy to 2040 recognises the absolute and unshakable objective of carefully managing a natural tourism asset that must be regenerative in everything that it does, and ensuring that all the interventions that support the tourism proposition in the area are carried out sympathetically with the environment. And what we're going to look at today is a couple of principles to help you use intelligent experience design for the built interventions that are going to connect and engage and deliver outstanding and appropriate visitor experiences. Only a small member of the AVEA membership is in the natural landscapes. Obviously we've got some brand homes, we've got galleries, museums, stately homes, etc. But one thing that is a real strength of AVEA as an association is that we have built, over the last 6 or 7 years, because we're a young association, we have built a very strong ethos of openness, exchange of information, exchange of knowledge, member networking, peer learning and collaboration, all backed up by research. And it's a model that we feel really supports the endeavours of our wider sector, which is to deliver an all-island, world-class visitor proposition that centres around the things to see and to do. So we feel there is much to be gained, and this is something that I truly believe in, much to be gained by a spirit of openness and a really open mindset to new ideas and to seeing how excellence can be translated from one section to another. One of the guest speakers that we had at the conference in the Cliffs of Moher was the operations director from AVEA. Now, some of you probably know what AVEA Voyage is, some of you might even have been there. It's the avatar-generated in-concert experience that was developed in London in a purpose-built arena. Now, the budgets that AVEA Voyage has are beyond anything that John could dream of or any of us could dream of, and the revenues obviously have been really, really strong in response to that. But nonetheless, even just looking at something like that can be really illuminating and educational, and just seeing how you can aspire to excellence and apply it in your own way. I've a very well-travelled tourism colleague, single lady, well-resourced, and she went to AVEA Voyage, and then she was telling me the next thing she was going to see was U2 in the Sphere in Las Vegas. And I was like, but you know, fine, I mean, I get it, but how are we going to replicate these experiences? And she's saying, oh, no, I can't replicate that, but I need to know what's next. I need to know what's hot. I just want to know, where's the tech going, and what makes people's eyes light up, and how are they engaging with visitors? And there's going to be something there that I will see that I can take home with me. And I just thought that sort of alertness and openness to innovation, creativity, design thinking is something that we can really apply. So what I'm going to talk about today is just 4 key principles: innovation, vision and ambition, the visitor focus and the place. And about leaning into what's unique and native in your own setting and considering those interventions that can support the tourism proposition and serve a greater regenerative objective. Always maintaining authenticity, as we've referred to, being relevant and meaningful, and innovating to deliver exceptional experiences. I mentioned Emma Steinman and the Wild Atlantic Way, which of course is very well known to you. It's not unique, you know, there's touring routes all over the world. And inspiration was taken from, from South Australia, the coastal road there, and global examples that already exist. And to a greater or lesser degree, all of these destinations have put investment into navigability, camping, rest stops, etc. But sometimes, you're just kind of, there's a time for interventions and there's a time for not intervening. And it's important to kind of have a think about maintaining the authenticity and the value of what's being delivered there itself. So, I just want to kind of have when we were down in Emma Steinman last year, we were talking about all the different things that can go wrong. I mean, okay, you could put in a better road there, but really, people want to see Dunquin and they want to walk down. And driving down, I mean, that was an absolute nightmare. That poor guy was absolutely mortified. And there are major traffic bottlenecks in some routes. There's like clockwise routes around the Ring of Kerry, which have to be implemented during the year in high season. This was the view we got at the Cliffs of Moher the day we brought our learning journey of 220 people. And there's some really imaginative and entrepreneurial ideas which have taken off there. But at an event shortly after lockdown, my chairperson, who's Geraldine Enright, she's the director of the Cliffs of Moher, and she was asked what her greatest challenge was, her greatest challenge in her professional life, and she said, fog. And there's nothing that can be done about that. Like even the day that we went out on our learning journey, where we got the amazing view of the Cliffs of Moher, we went to the Capricorn Stone Fort to see the sheepdog experience there. And the dogs nearly needed a blow dry afterwards. They were absolutely drenched. So it just, you can have all these beautiful outdoor experiences, and weather, it is what it is. So when we talk about what's world class, what does that actually mean? I mean, the Wild Atlantic Way, it's a marketing initiative at the end of the day. Is success making a top 10 list or a magazine cover? Is it being on a TV program or being chosen as a location for a film? How can we evaluate something as world class when it has a deeply personal and different meaning to everybody that experiences it? What I'm going to talk to you today is a little bit about sort of design thinking and how we can create things that really touch as many emotional points as possible. Like many people before me and many people after me, in 2018 I became a MALWAP. And it's an acronym that might not be familiar to you, but I think when I tell you what it is, well, first of all, you can take a look, but also you get in your mind's eye exactly what it is. I was a middle-aged lady walking a pilgrimage. Spurred on by a combination of middle-aged spread and a sense of my own mortality. With a couple of friends, I embarked on the 120-kilometre walk from Bayonne in Spain to Santiago de Compostela. And over 7 days, we walked the well-beaten path of the Portuguese way of St. James. The following year, we walked from Sante to Bordeaux. In 2020, we walked from the Rock of Cashel to Ardmore in Waterford, and then we did St. Brendan's Way the following year. The least successful exhibition was the Cashel to Ardmore, which was St. Declan's Way. Now it's a well-developed route, but at the time, there were raised voices, and one day we drove. So, the interventions, let's say, would have helped now. But I suppose I just want to talk to you, how do you measure the success of that experience? Well, when we were doing those walks, this is what we considered was our evaluation of our day. How many steps did we walk? Who had the longest legs or the shortest legs? How many hills did we climb? And how we expended our energy. But the journey, of course, isn't counted in miles. I mean, if you look at it on a map, it's just from one point to another. But instead, we look back on that as, the memories gathered along the way, the chats had, the arguments had, the nature experience, the rivers we swam in, the food we ate, the laughs we had, and just that sense of companionship and the memories that were created out of that. And I suppose just going back to, the malwaps, I know that you know this, but I think that often, people like me who are outside of the outdoor realm, which you all deal with on a day-to-day basis, is, there's a whole breadth of end users or visitors, I suppose we should really call them, that enjoy your spaces. And it can be difficult and challenging to meet the needs of all of those users. So, all the time I suppose you're considering, is this for everybody? Is it for all levels of fitness, all levels of ability, people's different sense of adventure, even their risk profile or their demographic? And are you thinking about the malwaps when you're looking at your outdoor realms? I was surprised, in advance of this, as I say, I'm a museum person. In fact, I even realised as I walked into the room and I kind of thought, I'm dressed here for the museum and culture sector, and I realised how outdoorsy everybody else was. So I put out my deck here. But I did a little bit of research, and I was particularly the rural areas, which is a major challenge. We need to transport infrastructure to support us. Do we have EV charging? Have we got adequate accommodation at a range of prices in a range of locations, and varied food and beverage offerings? We need to have a sufficient talent pool of people, which is a major challenge, holding on to the right people in the right locations. We also need other service providers like tour guides, taxi drivers and retail outlets. And we need to be able to contribute to a sustainable local economy, both by the purchase of goods and services and the payment of wages that remain in the neighbourhood. Now, these are of particular importance to rural areas, and they're a particular challenge for outdoor tourism businesses, as I'm sure you all know. But what we experienced, I think, during COVID, when there was a high level of domestic travel due to domestic tourism due to the travel restrictions, was in fact there were gaps at that time in the ecosystem. So we had social distancing, which impacted on capacities. We had limits on indoor dining, which put pressure on the outdoor. And there's a ripple effect across the whole industry. And even now, post-COVID, what I'm seeing is that there's a shortage of accommodation in pockets of the island, and a changing model of accommodation, which means there's fewer human touch points. And I think the human touch points is important. Like John already mentioned this, the Tourism Ireland says the three primary motivators for coming to stay in Ireland are the landscape, the culture and heritage, and the people. And like any ad that you will see, it leads out with the sweeping shots, the stunning vistas, the mountains, the cliffs, the beaches, the rugged coastlines, and all of this, this must be so sweet for you to see. When visitors are coming in, as you know, Dublin Airport is a hugely important access point, but you want to open out access as far as, you want people turning right when they come out of the airport, and you want them to be able to access all of the hinterlands that you have. But managing, as you do, the great outdoors, you might be tempted to think, well, landscape, that's us, we're the number one, that's fantastic. You're the top motivators, but this is only one, and again, it's back to that whole idea of the ecosystem. You need to really be conscious of creating experiences that capitalise and lean into all of these motivators to optimise your success, your chances of success. We market our land of 1,000 welcomes, the Cave Míle Fáilte, and that spirit of hospitality is really important to keep front and centre of everything that we deliver. This is a model that you're going to see throughout the day, and all of it is set in the context of the natural landscape, innovative and unique design, vision and ambition, place community-centred, and visitor-focused. Last night over dinner, we were talking about the changing profile of visitors, and I'm not a biker. I've never been on a bike trail in my life, but the more we open up about examples, talking about those bike trails, we learn about how different segments are using them. So just like any product life cycle, there's a maturing for people who would go on the flash from A to B, and then perhaps take up more adventurous cycling, and then we were talking about gravel tracks. And not everybody will be at the same point in the life cycle of the product at different stages of the time that they engage with you. So it's really important, I suppose, to stay as close to your visitor as you can, and to understand their motivations, and to keep an eye on their changing demographic over time. In one of my many degrees, excuse me, one thing that we have looked at over time is design thinking, which of course, as you'll see, is a loop. And I suppose the idea is that, tourism, like many other products and services, it's never finished. You're never going to have we've got it done, we've got that trail finished, and it's never going to need to be touched again. but you're always at the time sort of ideating, like, who am I speaking to at this moment in time? How am I leaning into the things that they need? Am I defining exactly what they want and testing that market? I've a very good colleague in the visitor attraction sector who runs Edinburgh's most popular museum. It's called the Camera Obscura, and it is a wonder of all sorts of curiosities and points of engagement. And it might be, you would imagine, the type of thing that you go to see once in your life when you're aged about 10, and then again in your life when you're about 46 and you have a 10-year-old. But in actual fact, they have a very high level of repeat visitation. And out of all of the businesses that I've dealt with, they do customer surveys literally on a weekly basis, and they have adapted highly agile and reactive response to customer insights and what needs to be changed and what needs to be improved. And it's just, you know, I know that we do this, and I suppose the more we use AI and, you know, 24 hours after you've had your appointment that you get the follow-up, you know, rate your satisfaction level. I mean, is that really listening to the customer, or is that just something that goes into an algorithm somewhere? You know, it's really important to kind of stay as close as you can. And even, you know, that idea, I really like this idea of ideating and kind of saying, right, well, I have a visitor that comes, her name is Emma. She's 37, she's a stay-at-home mother at the moment, but she's going to go back into the workplace in a couple of years' time. She's got Katie, who's 6, and she's got Connor, who's 4. And just kind of walking that journey and identifying what are the touch points that they have at every stage of their engagement with my organisation. So, you know, I like this whole idea of the loop and just going back and talking, like bringing it back from empathising the whole way around to testing it back again. Working with the outdoor amenities that you manage, like there are often opportunities to just transform something that already exists into something new that presses new buttons. I have a colleague in the room today, Joe, who's involved in the Peatlands and People project in Ireland's Midlands. And as John referred to earlier on, this is part of the Just Transition funding that we have. So developing new tourism and social economy out of land that's no longer being used for peat energy production. And the development of Lochborough in County Offaly is a really super example of something that is now creating something that visitors are going to drive to rather than drive through. And, you know, again, it's not a case of necessarily starting from scratch. Like, there are examples of disused railways that have been used, County Down, Carlingford, Waterford's Copper Coast, Limerick, all of these unlocking a tourism economy, opening access and participation. We were speaking at breakfast this morning about the Apple Greenway and the impact that that has had on the villages of Newport and Mulranny, really stimulating micro businesses, economy, and encouraging people to stay living by providing a sustainable lifestyle there for them. And as I say, things aren't necessarily new, and they don't necessarily have to be rural either. So, you know, there's opportunities in urban areas, and I just thought that the High Line in New York was one worth considering. And sometimes as well, you don't need to be wholly original. Like, as John said, you can't necessarily transplant ideas that work in one place and somewhere else, but you can always find inspiration overseas. And one thing that I really like is that idea of looking at things from a different perspective. So beyond the trees of a day, like we have Dahi speaking here today, and like we talk about, you know, the forest floor is one thing, but walking along the treetops is a completely different lens through which to look. And similarly, the underwater museum, like this is an underwater sculpture museum, which you actually have to scuba dive down to see. It's off the coast of Grenada in the Caribbean. We've got the dark skies, which again opens, kind of leads into that whole outdoor experience, right away from all the light pollution of the cities, and getting a real sense of escape from it all. And we all kind of feel, I don't know why it is, but we all feel moved by stargazing. I don't know whether it's a sense that we feel small in the greater context of the world. There's just something very moving about that. This is Cappadocia in Turkey, where I've never been, but it's on the list. And this is like a whole new way to see these rock sizes from the air, and it just creates this incredible and awesome experience. And this, I think it's called the Goblins in the bottom right here, which I know is earmarked for extra investment. But as I say, sometimes just look at things a little bit differently and see where they can bring to you. I'm very interested in culture and heritage, and there are opportunities for you to, of course, marry that second motivator, culture and heritage, into the outdoor realm. And this is a production of Riders to the Sea, the Sing play that was done on the beach in Sligo when the tide was out. Outdoor opera, forest opera in Poland, you know, other opera and drama. This is in Ardgillan Castle, and then education, of course, is absolutely, you know, an obvious one for you to lean into. In visitor attractions, we have this absolute obsession with the visitor journey and mapping how they navigate what it is that you do. Some attractions use technology literally to heat map movement through their facilities. Some use tech to make their retail and food and beverage outlets more efficient and more profitable. I saw one business last year that was using heat mapping to figure out where they should position in their shop the items that generated the greatest profitability. So all the time, when you're talking about your visitor's journey, you're looking at, are we orientating them? Is there accessibility built into their journey? Is there appropriate waste disposal, which I'm sure this is your area, I don't know about this, but I know that you do. Is it living up to leave no trace values? Are we managing transport in and out in the most efficient and environmentally friendly way? Do visitors know how to orientate themselves into the hinterland so that wider economic benefits are being built? And always assume that your visitor is going from no knowledge to full knowledge. But in our sector, in visitor attractions, we run a lot of networking events, and it all comes down to the P's and T's. I used to think that stood for parents and toddlers, but literally it is, where's the bathroom and where can I get a cuppa? So, it's not just that you are here reminders, but there's an absolute fixation on where can I pee and where can I have my tea. Accessibility, I just want to land on a point that has come up for discussion over the last couple of days. We were speaking last night about part of the AVEA conference that I ran last year, and we singled out one particular area of accessibility to conduct research on, and it was on the deaf and hard of hearing. And it was an area that was completely new to me, and it was inspired by the MD of one of the companies that we work with, who is in the audio guide business. He has a sister who's been profoundly deaf from birth. And he was very conscious that when she goes into a visitor attraction experience, her experience is completely different to the one that you and I might have. And even from the point of, is there sufficient lighting at the reception desk so that the information that she could receive is delivered in a way that's communicable? Is it printed? What's the evacuation plan? Are we ensuring that depth of experience is delivered in a meaningful way? And it was absolutely eye-watering. Like we did a survey out in advance, and we made it anonymous. And it's kind of embarrassing, really, for people to come back and say, I'm quite ashamed. I do none of these things. I do none of these simple steps that can make things more accessible to people who are deaf or hard of hearing. But what we learned out of it was that there was some low-hanging fruit, some easy wins that could be achieved, and we also identified a couple of star performers. And those were the ones that used that kind of design thinking idea and the ideation, because they brought in the deaf and hard of hearing community and said, what can we do? It was the Seamus Heaney exhibition in the National Library of Ireland. And specifically, it was about the spoken word poetry, and how do you make spoken word poetry accessible to people who have challenges in their hearing. And it was just a very interesting exercise to take. I spoke to a colleague lately who is involved in the accessibility and inclusion business around tourism, and she said one of the most powerful things that you can do is not to have a panel where there's one person with a disability on it, but to have a panel that is all people, made up of all people who have different levels of disability, who have different accessibility challenges, whatever they may be. And to just always kind of incorporate the views of people who have those challenges into everything that you do. And I know the phrase is, nothing about us without us. And I suppose that's something that I'm sure you already do, but it has just really spoken to me a lot lately, so I really wanted to mention that today. I know that I'm speaking to an audience that's deeply plugged into sustainable development goals, and you attach a high value to environmental sustainability and the protection of your natural environment, so I'm not seeking in any way to educate you on this or tell you anything new. But I suppose my tourism sector and the wider ecosystem, we could learn a lot from what you do. So it is really valuable to have an opportunity to meet you all, and to have the opportunity to engage and to network and to perhaps have those peer learning opportunities, and to help us on our journey towards those what we call the triple bottom line: economic, environmental and social sustainability. Some example, I'm on a sustainable tourism steering group for the Irish Tourism Industry Confederation, And we've looked at different overseas models, like just some that, I've listed some resources at the end that you might just like to look at, but just from the sense of a destination, rather than just your own organisations, to look at the sustainable. The Global Sustainable Tourism Council, the UNWTO has observatories for different regions around the world, which is very, very useful to look at. And in fact, Atlantic TU, which is one of the colleges in the south, has recently sought approval for observatory status, and New Zealand as well is one that you might look at. It was recently announced that Tourism Northern Ireland, John's just that through, but so I thought he might add to this, but Tourism Northern Ireland, Tourism Ireland and Fáilte Ireland are going to collaborate on an all-island sustainable tourism assurance scheme. And in my view, it makes complete sense to share expertise and to work collaboratively towards a common goal, which is to take a leadership position for tourism on the whole island to be as regenerative as possible, and to have an all-island standard for tourism businesses to achieve. So rather than working independently, we're all on the same journey together. And I think that all of this will serve to position Ireland as a destination that takes climate action seriously and responsibly. And kind of leans into that, the Emerald Isle, the greenness, and in everything that we do. Again, I just thought that this was important to acknowledge. This is something that you have done extremely well as a sector. One of the items on the matrix I showed you earlier on was about social and community. And it's likely that your most frequent users, your most frequent visitors are your neighbours. And investment and development for your visitors must always include your neighbours, and some of them may be members or regular visitors. We know how valuable outdoor spaces and green spaces are to the physical and mental well-being of all of us, and it was particularly highlighted during COVID. So I just wanted to recognise from somebody who isn't in your sector that you bring huge social benefits to the communities that you live in, and I think that that's a remarkable thing to do. I'd just like to bring it back to this, which you will see several times today, and to talk to you just about to recognise the extraordinary sites that you manage. And I hope that maybe you will have some insights from a visitor experience point of view, from the attractions perspective, how interventions may be made to support greater participation, greater engagement, greater connection with the people that you have who come in your gates. I look forward to hearing all of the conversations today from the different speakers and panelists today. And I felt very privileged to be invited here today. As I say, I'm from a very different sector, but I feel with huge mutual learnings. I hope that today brings lots of dialogue and lots of conversations, which we continue on into the future. I put up a couple of, they're gone now. There are a couple of resources which I'll ask the team to share out with you afterwards. Just some that I referred to here today. It's not homework, it's not further reading, there won't be a test afterwards, but I just hope it maybe adds to some knowledge, some conversation and some dialogue in due course. So thank you for your attention here today, and I look forward to meeting you all afterwards.
Thank you, Catherine. I think you're definitely a SWAT, but you have articulated and shared your knowledge brilliantly and very generously. Thank you for doing that today, and for what it's worth. You dressed beautifully. We badly needed a bit of glamour here, and you provided that as well as excellent insight and inspiration for everybody. So we're continuing with the theme of this session, which is what does exceptional look like on the world stage. The way we're going to operate the panel sessions is that we're going to have 3 speakers who will tell us a little bit more about 3 different case studies, again, that have been very successful worldwide, and then those 3 will remain on the stage and we'll do the Q&A and the panel discussion as well. In order to speed things up,